Earth warned the galaxy. We were holding back. Now, war has no limits. Before their scanners shut off, subscribe if you know we're the glitch in their system. Enjoy the story. The delegation arrived at Earth with all the pomp of a funeral procession. 7 ships sleek as obsidian knives descended through the blue atmosphere with calculated precision. The Hegemony had come to negotiate, they claimed. Admiral Maya Ellison knew better. Standing in the council chamber of Luna Station, she watched the alien emissaries take their positions. Supreme Strategist Kalen Verse, tall and ethereal with silver skin that seemed to drink in light, spoke first. His voice carried the weight of 1,000 conquered worlds. The Hegemony extends its hand in friendship. Voss declared, his words translated through Universal Codex. Join our coalition willingly, and Earth shall prosper under our guidance. Maya stepped forward, her dark skin gleaming under the chamber's harsh lights, every scar on her face telling a story of battles fought in the void. And if we refuse? Commander Sel Ravin, her serpentine features twisting into what might have been a smile, answered before Voss could speak. Then you shall learn why the galaxy bows to order. The silence stretched like a blade between heartbeats. Maya had seen this dance before, the polite threats, the veiled ultimatums. The Hegemony's negotiations always ended the same way: submission or annihilation. Earth has stood alone for centuries, Maya said, her voice steady as granite. We've learned survival skills that your species forgot long ago. We decline your generous offer. Minister Theric Sul, his crystalline form pulsing with indignant light, leaned forward. You would risk your entire species for pride. No, Maya replied, moving to the great window that showed Earth turning slowly below. We risk it for something you've never understood: the right to choose our own path. As the delegation filed out in offended silence, Voss paused at the threshold. Our scanners detect anomalies in your defensive grid, Admiral. Curious configurations that our databases cannot identify. Maya's expression never wavered. Earth is full of surprises, strategist. I hope you never have cause to discover them all. When the chamber doors sealed shut, Captain Lucas Mercer approached from the shadows. His weathered face bore the concern of a soldier who'd seen too many wars. They'll be back, he said quietly, and next time it won't be for conversation. Maya nodded, still watching her world turn beneath the stars. Dr. Price's future tech projects, how many are operational? 60%. The Aegis Veil system is still experimental, but it's our ace in the hole. Maya turned from the window, her eyes hard as obsidian. Alert all commanders. Code Crimson protocols are now in effect. The first shots of what history would remember as the Second Galactic War had been fired without a single weapon being drawn. The transmission came through encrypted channels at 0347 hours ship standard time. Maya sat in her private quarters aboard the UES Defiance reading reports that made her stomach turn to ice. Senator Harrison Webb's face flickered on her secure screen, his voice barely above a whisper. The vote is scheduled for tomorrow. Planetary Council emergency session. They're calling it the Survival Doctrine. Maya's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. How many? 17 senators, including Chen and Nakamura. They've been in contact with Hegemony representatives for weeks. Webb's image wavered as he glanced over his shoulder. Maya, they're offering to disable our defensive grids in exchange for regional governorships under Hegemony rule. The cup shattered in Maya's grip, hot liquid splashing across her desk. 17. Nearly half the Planetary Council ready to sell Earth's freedom for the promise of power under alien masters. Evidence. She asked, blood dripping from her palm where ceramic shards had cut deep. Audio recordings, communication logs, even meeting transcripts. But Maya, Webb's voice cracked, if we expose this now, it'll tear Earth apart. Civil war, while the Hegemony fleet masses at our borders. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of command settle heavier on her shoulders. In the viewport beside her desk, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the starfield, unaware that its own children were preparing to auction it to the highest bidder. Sir, Lieutenant Jared Cole's voice came through her comm. You asked for an update on Hegemony fleet movements. Come in, Lieutenant. Cole entered, his young face grave with intelligence reports. Maya studied him carefully. His family had old ties to pre-war peace movements, connections that made some question his loyalty. But she'd learned to read people in the void between stars, and Cole's dedication burned bright as a fusion torch. Hegemony forces have tripled their presence in the outer system, Cole reported. 47 capital ships, including 2 super dreadnoughts. They're calling it a diplomatic escort. Maya almost laughed at the bitter irony. Diplomatic escort. While Earth's own senators plotted to hand over their world without a fight. Any word on their tactical doctrine? She asked. Standard hegemony overwhelming force deployment. They expect quick capitulation once Earth sees the odds. Cole hesitated. Admiral, there are rumors among the crew. Talk of political complications. Maya met his eyes. Smart boy. Too smart for his own good, perhaps. Lieutenant, how are your survival skills? In a political sense? Cole straightened. I know when to speak and when to listen, ma'am. And I know the difference between loyalty to politicians and loyalty to Earth. Good answer. Maya activated her holodisplay showing the Hegemony fleet disposition. Because things are about to get very complicated. 3 hours later, Dr. Naomi Price burst into Maya's ready room without announcement, her usually perfect hair disheveled, her hands shaking with either caffeine or fear. Maya, the quantum cascade generators are reading massive energy buildups at the system's edge. They're not just posturing, they're charging weapons. Maya felt ice settle in her veins. The betrayers had moved faster than expected. How long until the fleet is in range? 8 hours, maybe less. They're using a formation I've never seen before. Some kind of future tech that's masking their true numbers. Maya looked out at Earth one more time, thinking of 17 senators sleeping peacefully in their beds while they prepared to hand over 6 billion souls to alien masters. Then we'd better make those 8 hours count. The attack began with silence. No declarations, no final ultimatums, just the sudden appearance of 63 Hegemony warships dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation around Earth's orbital defense grid. Supreme strategist Kalen Vruz had chosen the path of shock and awe, believing that overwhelming force would break human will before the first shot was fired. He was about to discover why believing human intelligence reports was a fatal mistake. All stations, this is Admiral Ellison. Maya's voice carried across every comm channel in the Earth Defense Force. Aegis protocols now active. Dr. Price, you have command authorization. On Luna Station, Dr. Naomi Price's fingers flew across her console with the desperate precision of someone racing against annihilation. The Aegis Veil, her masterwork of future tech and human ingenuity, had never been tested at full scale. Theoretically, it should work. Theoretically. Aegis Veil charging. She announced, her voice steady despite the sweat beading on her forehead. Initiating quantum field cascade in 3, 2, 1... Space around Earth suddenly blazed with invisible fire. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Every energy weapon discharged from the Hegemony fleet struck the Aegis barrier and reflected back with doubled intensity. Plasma bolts that should have shattered Earth's orbital platforms instead carved through their own ships' hulls. Particle beams meant to sterilize the planet's surface turned 26 Hegemony cruisers into expanding clouds of superheated gas. On the bridge of his flagship, Supreme Strategist Voss watched his perfect formation dissolve into chaos, his silver features twisting with something no Hegemony commander had felt in 3 centuries, genuine surprise. Impossible, he whispered, staring at the tactical display. Human technology cannot... Sir, his aide's voice cracked with panic. We've lost 40% of the assault fleet. The humans have some kind of defensive matrix that turns our own weapons against us. Voss felt the foundation of his understanding crack. For 700 years, the Hegemony had expanded through superior technologies and flawless intelligence. Human civilization was supposed to be primitive, fragmented, and capable of true innovation. Yet here they stood, having just neutralized the largest naval force ever assembled in this sector. On Earth, Captain Lucas Mercer stood beside Maya on the UES Defiance's bridge, watching enemy ships burn like fallen stars against the void. Aegis Veil is holding, he reported, though his voice carried undertones of disbelief. Enemy fleet is regrouping at maximum weapons range. They're They're afraid to close with us. Maya allowed herself one moment of satisfaction. Fear is a powerful teacher, Captain. Perhaps the Hegemony is about to learn something about underestimating survival skills. But the moment passed quickly. The Aegis Veil was a defensive weapon, powerful revolutionary, but ultimately limited. It could protect Earth from energy weapons, but it couldn't reach out and touch the enemy fleet. And Voss, for all his shock, was still a brilliant strategist. Admiral, Lieutenant Cole's voice cut through the bridge chatter. Hegemony forces are deploying kinetic bombardment platforms. Rocks and metal, nothing the Aegis can reflect. Maya nodded grimly. She'd expected this. The Hegemony would adapt as all successful predators did. The question was whether Earth could adapt faster. Signal Dr. Price. Tell her to begin Phase 2 of Aegis deployment. Sir? Mercer's eyebrows rose. Phase 2 wasn't scheduled for testing until we had no choice, Maya finished. Welcome to the reality of this war, Captain. We're flying into the storm with untested wings. Through the comm came Dr. Price's voice, tight with concentration. Aegis Phase 2 initialization. Now, switching from reflection to absorption matrix. The space around Earth shimmered again, but this time the effect was subtler. The massive kinetic projectiles hurled by Hegemony railguns struck the barrier and simply vanished. Not destroyed, not deflected, absorbed their kinetic energy, drawn into the quantum matrix, and converted to power for Earth's defense grid. For the first time in his military career, Kalen Voss felt something approaching respect for an enemy. These humans hadn't just surprised him, they'd checkmated his entire tactical doctrine. Signal the fleet, he ordered, his voice carrying new weight. Full withdrawal to defensive perimeter. We need time to analyze this development. As the Hegemony fleet pulled back, Maya allowed herself a thin smile. Earth had won the first round, but she harbored no illusions about the war ahead. Voss would return with new strategies, new weapons, new ways to break the barriers protecting her world. But for now, in this moment, 6 billion humans could sleep knowing their home still belonged to them. The war room aboard the UES Defiance had become a temple of sleepless determination. Holographic displays showed Hegemony fleet movements, in real time, their formations shifting like a living thing as Voss probed for weaknesses in Earth's defenses. 3 days had passed since the first battle, and the enemy had settled into a siege pattern that made Maya's tactical mind itch with unease. Captain Lucas Mercer stood before the central holotable, his weathered face etched with doubt. Around them, the ship's senior staff waited in tense silence as he outlined Maya's latest strategic proposal. With respect, Admiral Polcure, Mercer said carefully, Operation Spear Break is ambitious beyond all reason. You're asking us to take our entire reserve fleet, everything we have left, and punch through the Hegemony's blockade for a single strike at their command ship. Maya circled the table slowly, her fingers tracing the projected fleet movements. The Aegis Veil can protect Earth indefinitely, but only Earth. Our orbital manufacturing facilities, our mining operations in the asteroid belt, all of it remains vulnerable. Voss is strangling us slowly. But this plan, Mercer pressed, highlighting the tactical display, requires us to sacrifice our mobile defense grid entirely. If the strike fails, we're no worse off than we are now, Maya interrupted. But if it succeeds, we decapitate their command structure and buy Earth the breathing room it needs. Commander Sarah Chen, Maya's intelligence chief, leaned forward. Admiral, our analysis suggests a 60-40 chance of mission success. Those aren't terrible odds, but they're not great ones either, Dr. Naomi Price added from her position at the science station. And the future tech modifications to our ships are still experimental. We're asking our survival skills to overcome superior numbers and firepower. The doubt in the room was palpable, spreading like radiation from a cracked reactor core. Maya could see it in their faces. These were good officers, brave officers, but they'd spent too many years fighting defensive actions against superior foes. The idea of taking the offensive, of risking everything on a single desperate gamble, went against every instinct they'd developed. Lucas, Maya said quietly, using his first name for the first time in months. You've served with me for 8 years, through the Centauri incident, the Vegan blockade, The Nightmare at Ross 128. When have my tactical instincts ever led us wrong? Mercer's jaw worked silently for a moment. Never, ma'am. But those were defensive actions holding actions. This is different. Yes, Maya agreed. This is different because for the first time in human history, we have the chance to dictate terms instead of merely surviving them. Lieutenant Jared Cole spoke up from his position at the communication console. Admiral, if I may, the Hegemony expects us to play defense. Their entire tactical doctrine assumes we'll turtle up behind our barriers and wait for them to find a way through. They're not prepared for aggression. Maya nodded approvingly. The lieutenant understands. Sometimes the best survival skill is refusing to act like prey. But Mercer wasn't convinced. And if we lose our fleet, if this spear thrust breaks against their defenses, Earth will be naked defenseless except for the Aegis, and no barrier lasts forever. The silence stretched like a tightrope. Maya could feel the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders, the knowledge that her next words might determine whether humanity remained free or spent the next 1,000 years as subjects of an alien empire. You're right to doubt, she said finally. This plan requires us to sacrifice our safety net to commit everything to a single throw of the dice. But consider the alternative. She gestured to the long-range sensors showing hegemony reinforcements massing at the system's edge. Voss isn't going away. Every day we wait, his fleet grows stronger. Soon he'll have enough ships to overwhelm even the Aegis through sheer volume of fire. We can play defense until we lose, or we can take the initiative while we still have the chance. Dr. Price looked up from her calculations. The quantum modifications to our weapon systems should give us a significant tactical advantage briefly. But Maya, we only get one shot at this. If we miss, then we die as free humans instead of living as slaves, Maya said simply. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Around the table, she watched her officers wrestle with the mathematics of desperation, weighing certain death against probable extinction. Finally, Mercer straightened his shoulders. Admiral, I formally register my objections to Operation Spearbreak in the ship's log. Maya nodded. Noted, Captain. And I also formally volunteer to lead the assault. He continued, surprising everyone. If we're going to risk everything on this throw, I want to be the one guiding the spear. A smile touched Maya's lips for the first time in days. This was why she'd chosen Mercer as her second. Beneath his caution lay the heart of a warrior who understood that some fights were worth the risk of losing everything. Prepare the fleet, Captain. We launch at 800 tomorrow. As the meeting dispersed, Maya remained alone with the holographic display studying the enemy formations that stood between her world and freedom. Somewhere out there, Kalen Voss was making his own calculations, his own desperate plans. Neither of them knew that their carefully laid strategies were about to be shattered by a betrayal that would change the course of the war. The accusation came at the worst possible moment. Lieutenant Jared Cole was in the communications center running final system checks before Operation Spearbreak when the security detail arrived. Commander Sarah Chen led them, her face a mask of professional regret. Lieutenant Cole, you're under arrest for treason and collaboration with enemy forces. The comm center fell silent. 20 technicians and analysts turned to stare as Cole slowly raised his hands, his face pale but strangely calm. May I ask what evidence supports this charge? He asked quietly. Chen activated a holodisplay showing intercepted communications. These encrypted transmissions sent from your personal access codes to a hegemony frequency. Command cipher authentication confirms the messages originated from your station. On the screen, damning words scrolled past. Defense grid vulnerabilities confirmed. Aegis Veil operating parameters. Strike fleet deployment schedule. A complete intelligence summary that would allow Voss to counter every advantage Earth possessed. Sir. Cole said, his voice steady despite the plasma rifles pointed at his chest. I need to speak with Admiral Ellison immediately. There are circumstances. The only circumstance that matters, Chen interrupted, is that you've been feeding our battle plans to the enemy. Security escort the prisoner to the brig. As the guards moved forward, Cole made no attempt to resist. But his eyes found the main communications console, and his lips moved in what might have been a prayer. Word of Cole's arrest spread through the fleet like wildfire. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Captain Mercer received the news with grim satisfaction. "I never trusted that boy," he told Maya. "Too young, too eager, and those family connections to the peace movement always bothered me. This explains how Voss has been anticipating our moves." Maya stood silent before the tactical display, watching Hegemony ships adjust their positions in response to Earth's fleet movements. The enemy's countermeasures were indeed too precise, too perfectly timed. "Bring him to me," she ordered. "Admiral Security Protocol, now Captain." 20 minutes later, Jared Cole stood in Maya's ready room, wrists bound, but head held high. At 26, he looked even younger under the harsh lighting, but his eyes held depths that spoke of burdens beyond his years. "Lieutenant," Maya began, "you've served on my staff for 2 years. Your service record is exemplary. So explain to me how we found evidence of treason in your personal files." Cole met her gaze directly. "Because I put it there, Admiral." The admission hung in the air like a live grenade. Mercer's hand moved instinctively toward his sidearm. "Sir," Cole continued quickly, "3 months ago, Commander Selravin approached me through intermediary channels. She offered a bargain intelligence about Earth's defenses in exchange for my family's safety when the Hegemony conquered our world." Maya's voice was ice cold. "And you accepted?" "I appeared to accept, but every piece of information I've passed has been carefully crafted disinformation designed to mislead Hegemony tactical planning. What they think is our defense grid layout is actually a decoy pattern. The Aegis Veil parameters they received are off by 30%. And the strike fleet deployment schedule?" Cole smiled grimly. "Well, Operation Spearbreak was never the real plan." Mercer stared at the young officer. "You're telling us you've been running a counterintelligence operation without authorization." "I'm telling you I've been feeding false information to a Hegemony commander who believes she's turned me into her asset. Every secret I've revealed has been designed to make Voss confident in strategies that will fail catastrophically." Maya studied Cole's face, reading the micro-expressions that revealed truth from deception. After 30 years of command, she'd learned to see past words to the intentions beneath. "The communications intercepts showed real intelligence about our defenses," she said carefully. "Cleverly constructed lies designed to seem authentic. Admiral, there's something else, something I couldn't reveal until now because it would compromise the operation." Cole straightened. "Selravin isn't just a Hegemony commander. She's planning her own coup against Voss. She believes the war against Earth is strategically unsound, and she's gathering support among other fleet commanders." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Maya walked to her viewport, staring out at the distant stars, where 2 fleets prepared for a battle that might determine humanity's future. "You're claiming that a Hegemony commander is preparing to betray her own forces?" "I'm claiming that she already has." "The virus I've been transmitting isn't just disinformation, it's a Trojan horse. Every strategic update I've sent has carried a payload designed to infiltrate Hegemony command systems. In 47 minutes, when Voss attempts to coordinate his fleet's response to our desperate attack, he's going to find that his ships won't respond to his orders." Mercer's eyes widened. "You've sabotaged their entire command grid with Selravin's unwitting assistance. She's been so focused on using me to gather intelligence that she never suspected I was using her to plant a virus in the Hegemony's most secure systems." Maya turned back to Cole, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not the eager young officer she'd thought she knew, but a chess player sophisticated enough to sacrifice his own reputation in service of a deeper strategy. "The family connections," she said. "The peace movement ties that made everyone suspicious. Perfect cover for someone who needed to seem like a likely turncoat. Admiral, my grandfather spent his life trying to prevent wars through diplomacy. I learned from his failure that sometimes peace can only be secured through victory." The silence stretched as Maya weighed the incredible gamble Cole had taken. If he was lying, Earth was doomed. If he was telling the truth, they were about to witness the first internal fracture in the Hegemony in 7 centuries. "Release his restraints," she ordered. As the bonds fell away, Cole rubbed his wrists and looked up at Maya with something approaching hope. "Admiral, there's one more thing. The virus I planted, it has a 30-day operational window. We don't just get one shot at the Hegemony command structure, we get a month of chaos. But only if we move now." Maya smiled a predator's grin that spoke of battles won through cunning rather than strength. Mr. Cole, remind me to commend your survival skills in your next performance review. Captain Mercer, how quickly can we modify Operation Spearbreak to take advantage of a compromised enemy command grid? As her officers bent to their work, Maya allowed herself a moment of fierce pride. The Hegemony had made the classic mistake of underestimating human ingenuity. They'd assumed that turning one young officer would give them victory. Instead, they'd handed Earth the keys to their downfall. The virus activated at precisely 13:47 hours, ship standard time. Across the Hegemony fleet, command systems began experiencing what their automated diagnostics classified as cascading processor anomalies. Navigation computers started routing ships toward collision courses. Weapons systems locked onto friendly targets. Communication arrays began broadcasting random noise instead of tactical data. On the bridge of his flagship, Supreme Strategist Kalen Vos watched his perfect battle formation dissolve into chaos with the slow-burning horror of a commander realizing he'd been outplayed. Sir, his tactical officer's voice cracked with panic. Fleet coordination is down across all vectors. Ships are reporting complete loss of central command authority. Voss's silver features twisted as understanding dawned. The human, the young one who was feeding us intelligence. His voice dropped to a whisper. He wasn't turned. He was hunting us. For 7 minutes, the exact duration Cole had programmed into his viral payload, the most powerful naval force in the galaxy floundered like a wounded leviathan. Ships drifted out of formation. Weapon systems powered down randomly. Tactical displays showed friendly vessels as hostile contacts. And into this chaos came Earth's true response. All ships, this is Admiral Ellison, Maya's voice carried across every human frequency. Operation Nightfall's now active. Execute Alpha Strike Pattern. What the Hegemony had expected to be a desperate charge by Earth's reserve fleet became something far more devastating. 60 human ships, their weapons modified with Dr. Price's latest future tech innovations, struck at the crippled alien formation with surgical precision. But the most devastating blow came not from Earth's weapons, but from its words. Doctor. Naomi Price's image appeared on every active communication channel in the Hegemony fleet, a broadcast that override their security protocols and forced every screen to display her message. My name is Dr. Naomi Price. She began, her voice steady, despite the weight of confession. 15 years ago, I worked for Hegemony Research Division 7, developing weapons of mass destruction for use against primitive species. I helped design the quantum cascades that sterilized the Altair colonies. I created the bioplagues that cleared the vegan worlds for Hegemony settlement. On the flagship bridge, Voss stared at the woman whose brilliant mind had once served his empire's expansion. I told myself it was progress, Price continued, that the greater good justified any sacrifice. I was wrong. Today I choose to side with the species I once considered beneath notice, not because they're perfect, but because they're capable of something the Hegemony has forgotten: growth. Her image gestured to something off-screen, and suddenly the tactical displays showed Earth's true defensive capabilities. Not just the Aegis Veil, but orbital platforms that turned asteroids into kinetic weapons. Stealth satellites that could disable enemy ships with focused electromagnetic pulses, and most shocking of all, evidence that human survival skills had led them to develop technologies the Hegemony considered theoretically impossible. For too long, Price said, the galaxy has been ruled by fear of change. The Hegemony maintains order by crushing innovation, by ensuring that no species can develop beyond their assigned place. But humans refuse to accept limits. Through the chaos of his disabled fleet, Voss managed to establish direct communication with the human scientist. His image appeared on her screen, tall, ethereal, and furious. Dr. Price, he said, his voice carrying the accumulated arrogance of 7 centuries. You forget that I knew you when you were rational. This emotional attachment to primitive mammals, it will pass. Price smiled, not the expression of a turncoat seeking redemption, but the confidence of a teacher about to deliver a final lesson. Kalen, you still don't understand. These primitive mammals just crippled your entire fleet with technology you can't even detect. They've survived Ice Age's pandemics and the destruction of their own homeworld's climate through nothing but adaptability and refusal to accept defeat. You call that primitive? She gestured again, and the tactical displays updated with new information, real-time scans of the Hegemony fleet, showing the full extent of their compromise. Every ship was infected. Every command system was corrupted. The virus hadn't just disabled their coordination, it had rewritten their tactical databases to classify their own vessels as hostile targets. The galaxy doesn't need your order, Price continued. It needs the chaos of growth, the beautiful inefficiency of species that refuse to be classified and contained. Today, Earth offers you a choice: withdraw and leave us to our own development, or learn what happens when you try to cage a species that survived everything the universe could throw at them. Voss's expression shifted from anger to something approaching fear. Around him, his bridge crew struggled with systems that no longer obeyed their commands. His perfect fleet, the product of 1,000 years of technological refinement, had been turned into scrap by a handful of humans with the audacity to improvise. "This isn't over," he said finally. "No," Price agreed. "But it's the beginning of the end of your empire's monopoly on progress. Goodbye, Kalen." The transmission cut, leaving Voss staring at a dead screen, while around him, the Hegemony fleet slowly regained basic functionality. But the damage was done. Earth had demonstrated that human ingenuity could overcome alien superiority. More importantly, they'd shown the galaxy that the Hegemony wasn't invincible. As the viral interference began to clear, Voss faced a choice that no Hegemony commander had confronted in centuries: retreat or risk total destruction against an enemy that refused to fight by the established rules. For the first time in his long career, Supreme Strategist Kalen Voss chose retreat. The pursuit began 12 hours after the Hegemony retreat. Admiral Maya Ellison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching her fleet track the fleeing alien armada through hyperspace. Beside her, Captain Mercer studied the tactical displays with the satisfaction of a predator closing on wounded prey. "They're heading for the Sigma Draconis system," he reported, "probably hoping to regroup at their forward command base." Maya nodded, but her expression remained troubled. Around them, the bridge crew worked with the efficient precision of veterans who'd just achieved the impossible, driving back the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Yet something in their admiral's demeanor suggested the war was far from over. "Signal the fleet," Maya ordered. "Prepare for system-wide deployment upon hyperspace exit. But hold weapons at ready status. Do not fire unless fired upon." Mercer's eyebrows rose. "Admiral, we have them on the run. This is our chance to finish what they started." "No, Captain. This is our chance to finish what they never expected: a war won through strength rather than vengeance." The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sigma Draconis system to find the Hegemony armada in full retreat formation. But something was wrong. Long-range sensors showed massive energy signatures from the system's inner planet's weapon platforms, charging defensive grids, activating. "Sir," Lieutenant Cole reported from his reinstated position at communications. "We're receiving multiple transmissions from the Hegemony fleet. They're not coordinated. Different ships are broadcasting conflicting orders." On the main screen, chaos unfolded in real time. The fleeing Hegemony fleet had split into 3 distinct formations, their ships targeting each other as much as preparing for Earth's arrival. The virus Cole had planted had done more than disable their coordination. It had shattered their command structure entirely. "Admiral AI," Dr. Price's voice came through the comm from her laboratory. "I'm reading massive internal conflicts among the Hegemony vessels. The future tech virus didn't just corrupt their battle systems, it exposed every classified communication, every secret order, every hidden agenda within their command hierarchy." Maya smiled grimly. "Commander Selravin's coup attempt. Already in progress. She's taken control of roughly 30% of the fleet. Another faction appears to be loyal to Minister Tharic's soul, while Kalen Voss struggles to maintain authority over the remainder." Through the tactical display, Maya watched an empire tear itself apart. For 7 centuries, the Hegemony had maintained unity through fear and rigid hierarchy. Now, with their secrets exposed and their technological superiority compromised, old rivalries and ambitions were erupting into open warfare. "Signal Commander Vin's faction," Maya ordered. "I want to speak with her directly." Minutes later, Selra Vin's serpentine features appeared on the main screen. Her scaled skin showed signs of battle damage, and her eyes burned with the fervor of someone fighting for survival. "Admiral Ellison," Vin said, her voice carrying grudging respect. "I confess your species has exceeded our expectations." "Commander Vin," Maya replied formally, "you're in the middle of a civil war. My fleet could tip the balance in any direction we choose. The question is, what are you fighting for?" Vin's expression shifted. "Freedom from the Hegemony's stagnation. For too long, we've maintained order by crushing innovation, by preventing any species from rising to challenge our supremacy. Your resistance has shown me the cost of that policy." And vos sol. Vos clings to the old ways. Total domination or total destruction. Sol. Vin's features twisted with disgust. Sol wants to negotiate Earth's surrender in exchange for power within the existing system. Neither understands that the galaxy has already changed. Maya stepped closer to the screen. Then let's discuss the shape that change will take. What followed was the strangest diplomatic negotiation in human history, conducted across the void, while three factions of an alien empire fought for supremacy. Maya found herself in the position of kingmaker, able to determine which vision of the future would prevail. "My terms are simple," she told the assembled faction leaders through split-screen communication. "Complete withdrawal of hegemony forces from Earth space, recognition of humanity's right to technological and cultural development without interference, and most importantly, the establishment of a galactic council where all species have equal voice in matters of interstellar law." Minister Theric Sol's crystalline form pulsed with indignation. "Impossible! The Hegemony has maintained galactic order for—" "The Hegemony?" Maya interrupted. "Just watch 30 human ships disable a fleet of 60 superior vessels through superior tactics and survival skills. Your order is built on the assumption of permanent technological advantage. That assumption is now invalid." Kalen Vos, his silver features haggard with fatigue, leaned forward. "And if we refuse your terms," Maya's smile was sharp as a blade, "then Earth withdraws from this conflict and lets you tear each other apart. We've proven we can defend ourselves. We don't need to conquer you, we just need to outlast you." The silence stretched across 3 ships, 3 factions, 3 possible futures for the galaxy. Maya could see the calculations in their eyes, the recognition that humanity had changed the fundamental equation of power. Commander Vin spoke first. "I accept your terms, Admiral. My forces will withdraw to the Outer Rim and begin establishing the new Galactic Council you propose." Minister Sol's form flickered with uncertainty. The political implications? Perhaps negotiation is preferable to continued warfare." All eyes turned to Kalen Vos. The architect of the Hegemony's expansion stared at Maya for long moments, his expression cycling through anger, respect, and finally exhaustion. "Admiral Ellison," he said quietly, "you have achieved something I thought impossible. You've made the conquest of Earth more costly than its potential benefits. Very well. The Hegemony withdraws." But Maya wasn't finished. "Supreme Strategist, there's one more condition. You will stand trial before the new Galactic Council for war crimes committed during your expansion campaigns. The galaxy deserves justice for the worlds you've destroyed." Voss's features hardened. "And if I refuse, then Commander Vin's faction will hunt you to the edge of the galaxy, and Earth will provide them with the technology to do it efficiently." For the first time in his long career, Kalen Vos found himself cornered by an enemy who offered mercy, rather than destruction, mercy with the weight of justice behind it. "I accept," he said finally. As the communications ended and the 3 Hegemony factions began their separate withdrawals, Captain Mercer approached Maya with something approaching awe. "Admiral," he said quietly, "you just reshaped the political structure of the galaxy. How do you feel?" Maya looked out at the stars, thinking of Earth turning peacefully in space, unaware that its children had just secured its freedom through strength rather than submission. "Tired," she said simply, "and hopeful." 6 months after the Battle of Sigma Draconis, the memorial took shape in Earth's orbit. "From prey to protectors" was etched in 47 languages across the monument's surface, a crystalline structure that caught and reflected the light of Sol, visible from the planet's surface as a new star that testified to humanity's transformation. Admiral Maya Ellison floated in zero gravity before the memorial, watching construction crews from a dozen species work together to complete the project. The trials had concluded 3 weeks ago. Kalen Voss, true to his word, had stood before the newly formed Galactic Council and faced judgment for 7 centuries of expansion wars. The evidence was overwhelming: entire civilizations, erased worlds, stripped of resources, species reduced to servitude. Yet Maya had argued for exile rather than execution, understanding that justice served cold was more powerful than revenge served hot. "Admiral," Dr. Naomi Price's voice came through the comm. "The final statistics are in from the rehabilitation programs." Maya activated her heads-up display, reviewing the numbers that told the story of a galaxy learning to heal. 17 former Hegemony worlds had joined the new Galactic Council. 43 species had regained their sovereignty. Most remarkably, the sharing of human survival skills and future tech innovations had led to a renaissance of development that the rigid Hegemony system had suppressed for generations. But not all the news was positive. The political trials on Earth concluded yesterday, Captain Mercer reported as he joined Maya at the memorial site. Senator Webb's testimony sealed the cases against the collaborators. Maya nodded grimly. The 17 senators who had planned to sell Earth's freedom had faced their own judgment not from alien conquerors, but from their own people. The trials had been public, painful, and necessary. Democracy, Maya had learned, required constant vigilance against those who would trade freedom for security. Sentences: exile for most, imprisonment for the ringleaders, no executions, the new constitution prohibits capital punishment during peacetime. Mercer paused. "It's strange, isn't it? We fought an interstellar war, but we're showing more mercy to our traitors than they would have shown to us." "That's what separates us from the old hegemony," Maya replied. "We break cycles instead of perpetuating them." Through her comm came Lieutenant Cole's voice from Earth's surface. "Admiral, the ceremony is ready to begin when you are." Maya looked one last time at the memorial, thinking of all the species who had suffered under hegemony rule, all the innovations that had been suppressed, all the potential that had been wasted in the name of order. Today marked not just the end of Earth's war, but the beginning of a new era of cooperation. "On our way, Lieutenant." The ceremony took place in New Geneva, the city that had become the seat of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the Great Hall that had once housed the United Nations, but now served a far grander purpose. Maya stood at the podium, looking out at faces, some human, some utterly alien, united by a shared commitment to never again allow tyranny to masquerade as order. 6 months ago," she began, "humanity stood on the brink of extinction. Today, we stand at the beginning of a new chapter in galactic history. But this transition hasn't been easy." She gestured to the memorial feeds, showing not celebration, but reconstruction. Former hegemony worlds struggling to establish independent governments. Refugee populations trying to rebuild shattered cultures. Species learning to cooperate instead of simply obeying. We've learned that winning a war is simpler than winning a peace. Freedom is harder to build than slavery is to maintain. But the galaxy is proving that growth, however painful, is preferable to stagnation, however stable. In the audience, she saw Commander Selravin, no longer a hegemony officer, but the elected representative of the reformed Serpentine Confederacy. Beside her sat Dr. Price, now serving as Earth Science Advisor to the Council. Even former Minister Sol had found a place in the new order, using his administrative experience to help coordinate refugee resettlement. "Today we establish the Covenant of Equals, not a document of surrender, but a promise that no single species will again claim dominion over others. That innovation will be rewarded, not punished. That diversity of thought and culture will be our strength, not our weakness." As Maya signed the covenant, she thought of the journey that had brought them here. From the moment the hegemony delegation had demanded Earth's submission to this day, when humanity helped birth a new galactic civilization, it had been a testament to what the sample Scifi stories had always celebrated: the refusal to accept limitations imposed by others. "The future will bring new challenges," Maya concluded, "but we face them not as subjects of an empire, but as partners in the greatest experiment in galactic history. Today, we choose growth over stagnation, cooperation over domination, Hope over fear. The hall erupted in sounds of approval. Human applause mixing with serpentine harmonic resonance, crystalline light flashes, and dozens of other species' expressions of agreement. Through the great windows, Earth hung blue and peaceful in space, no longer alone, but surrounded by allies who had learned that strength came not from ruling others, but from lifting them up. As Maya stepped down from the podium, Lieutenant Cole approached with news that made her smile. Admiral, we've received confirmation from the Deep Space Monitoring Stations. Long-range sensors show no hostile fleet movements anywhere in the explored galaxy. For the first time in recorded history, there are no active conquest campaigns by any major power. Maya looked out at the stars, thinking of all the species out there who were finally free to develop according to their own nature, rather than someone else's vision of order. It wasn't the end of conflict. Democracy was messy. Cooperation was difficult and growing pains were inevitable. But it was the end of an age where might made right and technological superiority justified oppression. Status report on the new exploration initiatives, she asked. 12 joint missions launching next month, Cole replied. Mixed crews, shared technology, common purpose. We're not just rebuilding the galaxy, Admiral. We're preparing to expand it. Maya nodded, satisfied. Humanity's greatest survival skill had never been its adaptability, or its refusal to surrender. It was their ability to inspire others to become better than they thought possible. The war was over. The future was just beginning. This is what happens when humanity refuses to accept limitations, when survival skills become the foundation for building something greater than anyone imagined. If this journey of courage, innovation, and redemption inspired you to believe in the power of never giving up, show your support with a like and subscribe for more stories that celebrate the indomitable human spirit. Because sometimes the greatest victory isn't conquering your enemies, it's convincing them to join you in building something better.